The crew of the Solaris Dawn stood still. Jump in 5, 4, 3. Commander Rylan looked across the bridge. Her crew didn't speak. They had trained for this moment for months. They were calm, focused, and ready. Beside her stood Mason, the tech officer, quiet, always checking systems twice. To the left, Elia, the lead scientist, stared at her monitors, hands shaking just a little. At the front, Zane, their best pilot, kept his eyes locked on the rift ahead. It was called the Rift Zone. A tier in space. No one knew what it was. No one understood it, but everyone feared it. Alien empires avoided it. Trade routes curved far away. There were old recordings distorted, half lost, of ships screaming before they vanished inside. No ship had ever come back, but Earth had sent the Solaris Dawn anyway. Some said it was pride. Some said curiosity. Others whispered Earth knew something. Something they hadn't told the crew. Commander Rylan pushed the thought away. 2, 1, jump. The ship lurched forward. And then everything vanished. No sound. No stars. No ship. Only black. A deep, thick, endless black. Rylan couldn't hear her breath. She couldn't feel her seat. She reached for the control panel, but her hands didn't move. Time didn't exist here. She didn't know if they were frozen for 1 second or 1,000 years. Then something blinked. Not a light. Not a system. Coming back. Something alive. It blinked once. Then again. Inside the black. Suddenly, the ship slammed back into reality. Lights flickered on. Systems returned with beeps and flashing screens. Elia gasped like she had been drowning. Zayne coughed hard, gripping the controls. Mason was pale, his hands shaking over his keyboard. Report. Rylan barked, her voice hoarse. No damage, Mason said slowly. We're back in normal space. Are we still in the rift? Elia scanned her data. No, we jumped through it. Silence. No one spoke. No one celebrated. It didn't feel like a victory. Zane turned his chair. Commander. She froze. His eyes, they were glowing. Just slightly. Faint red light, like embers behind the iris. Everyone noticed. No one said a word for a few seconds. Then Rylan stepped forward. Zane, do you feel okay? He blinked. The glow faded a little. Yeah, I think so. Just weird. Like something touched me. Flashback. 3 weeks ago. The Galactic Council had laughed when Earth announced the mission. You're sending humans into the rift? A senator mocked. Why not just throw them into a black hole? But Earth didn't back. Down. The Solaris Dawn launched from Mars base. Full support. Full confidence. Still. Some whispered that Earth's top minds had found something buried in the old Voyager transmissions. A signal. From inside the rift. Back in present. Elia walked to Zane with a scanner. She checked his vitals. Everything's normal. But your eyes. He touched his face. It doesn't hurt. Rylan turned to Mason. Status? We're on the other side of the rift, Mason confirmed. But, Commander, this place doesn't match any star charts. Elia looked out the main screen. That's because those aren't stars. The crew gathered at the front. They stared. Outside the ship was space, but not like any they knew. The stars were twisted, moving. Some spun slowly, as if watching, and far, far in the distance, something massive floated, a shape like a structure half hidden in dark clouds. Zane whispered, I think that's what blinked. Suddenly, the lights inside the ship flickered again. Elia screamed. Something had passed behind her, reflection in the window. Raylan turned sharply. Weapons online. Full scan. Don't trust anything out here. But even as she spoke, a cold thought crept into her mind. Something had followed them through. Or worse, something had let them in. and Zane's eyes, still faintly glowing, didn't blink once. Cliffhanger ending. Rylan whispered, "Everyone, listen to me carefully." She stepped forward, slowly, her voice steady but sharp. "From this point on, if anyone starts seeing things, anything, report it immediately. I don't care if it's a dream, a shadow, or a whisper. You tell me." Behind her, Zane was still staring at the stars. His voice was flat. "They're not stars, Commander. They're watching us." The rift zone was calm. Too calm. The stars outside the Solaris Dawn's windows looked normal. The ship's systems showed no damage. And yet, something felt wrong. Commander. Rylan stood in the control room, staring at her crew. Zane, the pilot, sat still, his hands tight on the controls. His eyes glowed red, faint but clear. Not like contact lenses. Not like a scanner light. It was unnatural. "Zane," Rylan said slowly, "are you feeling okay?" He blinked. His voice sounded distant. "Yeah, I'm fine." "Why?" Everyone looked at him. Even Elia, the scientist, looked unsure. "Your eyes," Mason said, his voice low. "They're glowing." Zane looked into a reflective panel and paused. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came. Then he shook his head and smiled. "Weird lighting, maybe. Let's run a diagnostic." No one believed him. Not fully. Still, Raylan gave the order. Everyone, full body scans. Right now. Medical bay. 10 minutes later, the scans showed nothing. No infection. No brain changes. No foreign energy signatures. But Elia noticed something else. "Look at his neural activity," she said, showing the crew a graph. "Zane's brain isn't resting. Even when he blinks, it's like he's seeing something we can't." Zane stared at the screen and chuckled. "Maybe I'm just built different." Nobody laughed. Flashback. Weeks before, the Mission Earth Command had briefed them on the dangers of the rift. Not black holes, not radiation, something stranger. "There are stories," the Admiral had said. "Crews go silent. Ships vanish. If you see anything, record it, but do not trust it." Earth had sent the Solaris Dawn not just to explore, but to recover truth. Something had gone in before, something important. But Earth never said what. Present. Ship Corridor. Mason walked down a dim corridor, holding a scanner. He kept checking over his shoulder. Footsteps. He turned. No one. Again footsteps. Faster this time. He stopped at an airlock window. Something moved past the outer glass. Too big. Too smooth. Like a shadow with shape. Suddenly he heard Zane's voice behind him. "You're not alone." Mason jumped and turned. Zane smiled again, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You saw it, didn't you?" Zane asked. Mason didn't answer. Zane stepped closer. "It watches all of us, but only some of us can see it now." Control room Raylan stared at the logs. Their jump lasted exactly 0.00 seconds. No time passed. That was impossible. She called Elia and said, "Run a check on time distortion." Elia nodded, but hesitated. "Commander, I haven't told you something." "What?" "I had a dream right after we jumped. Or maybe it wasn't a dream." There was a voice. It said, "You are seen now." Raylan froze. "I didn't sleep," Rylan said quietly. "But I heard a whisper too. It said, 'Now you belong.'" They didn't share more, but the fear was real now. This wasn't space sickness. It wasn't hallucination. Something entered with them. Or worse, something entered them. Engine room. One of the crew, Lena, went missing. They found her in the engine room, curled up, whispering to herself. She had drawn symbols on the walls with oil. Circles, eyes, spirals. "I didn't do this," she kept saying. "It used my hands." Rylan ordered medical lockdown. Elia checked her vitals, heart rate unstable, brainwaves chaotic. I think. The rift touched her mind, Elia said. Raylan stared at the symbols. She felt like they were watching her. Crew. Discussion later. They all sat around the central table. 5 crew. 1 missing. Zane leaned back, still smiling faintly. I think the rift is alive, he said, and it's showing us truth. Rylan frowned. Truth? This feels like madness. Zane looked at her with glowing eyes. Isn't that what truth feels like at first? Nobody spoke after that. Cliffhanger that night, while the crew slept. Security footage caught something horrifying. Zane stood alone in the control room. The stars outside shifted. And then, his reflection didn't. Move with him. It stood still watching. The Solaris Dawn had landed on solid ground, but nothing felt solid. The world outside the ship looked like a normal alien planet. Blue skies, strange trees, a wind that didn't blow. But it was too normal, like a perfect dream copied from memory. Commander Raylan stepped off the ship first. Her boots touched soft grass, but it didn't move when she walked. Behind her, Mason held a scanner. Readings are wrong. The numbers keep changing. Elia, the ship's lead scientist, looked around nervously. This place is copying. U.S., she whispered. Zane stood at the rear, silent. His glowing red eyes followed something no one else could see. They moved into the forest. The trees bent slightly, as if watching them. Nothing made sound. Not a bird. Not the wind. Only their boots crunched against fake dirt. Suddenly, Zane stopped. There's a voice, he said softly. Rylan turned. Where? Zane pointed to a tree. Not outside, inside the wall. Inside my skull. Mason gripped his scanner tighter. That's not normal. Rylan gave a silent signal. Form up. Stay close. As they moved, the forest shifted. A tree behind them moved ahead of them. A rock that wasn't there before now blocked their path. Elia took a deep breath. This isn't a place. It's alive. It's reading us, and it's changing. Then came the sound, not loud, not harsh, but clear, a voice speaking in perfect English. Why are you here? Everyone froze. The voice didn't echo. It was flat, as if spoken directly into each mind. Rylan whispered, Who's speaking? You are, it said back. Zane laughed short and broken. It's me. It's using my voice. Suddenly, Mason dropped his scanner. He clutched his head. Stop. Get out. He shouted. Rylan grabbed his shoulders, trying to calm him. But Mason's eyes had gone wide, his pupils spinning like small galaxies. Elia scanned him quickly. His brainwaves are split, like someone's, copying them. Then Mason gasped and stopped shouting. He stood up slowly, too slowly, and smiled. But it wasn't Mason's smile. It was too perfect, too wide. Raylan raised her weapon. Mason, speak, right now. He tilted his head. I remember. Your fear, he said. I tasted it. Rylan stepped back. That's not Mason. Elia whispered. Something's wearing him like a coat. They made a hard choice, retreat to the ship. As they ran, the forest tried to stop them. Trees twisted into hands. Roots, lifted from the ground. Zayn stayed behind for a moment, staring at the sky. It knows our names, he whispered. Back aboard the Solaris Dawn, the lights flickered. Systems glitched. Mason dash. If it was still, Mason stood outside, smiling, watching. Then the ship locked itself. Rylan shouted, Override controls now. But the ship replied with Zane's voice. Why are you here? Elia backed away from the console. This place, it's not a planet. It's not space. It's a mirror. Zane sat quietly, eyes glowing brighter. It's learning. Rylan turned to him. What do you mean? Zane looked at her slowly, as if waking up. It doesn't want us to leave, he said, and the ship's walls began to breathe. Cliffhanger ending. Elia screams. The walls open like lungs, and something steps out, a perfect copy of her, smiling coldly. Now we begin, the copy says Dot, and the real Elia faints. The Solaris dawn sat still on the strange surface. The sky above them was a strange purple gray, always swirling, always moving. It looked like a painting someone kept smudging. Commander Rylan stood just outside the ship's ramp, her boots sinking slightly into the soft, silent ground. There was no wind, no birds, no bugs, nothing even. The sound of her breathing felt too loud in her ears. Behind her, Mason scanned the area with a handheld sensor. No radiation, no toxins. It's breathable, but weirdly clean. Too clean. Elia stood next to him, looking worried. Something's wrong with the air. It's not the chemicals, it's the feeling. Like it's fake. Rylan nodded. Stay close. No one wanders alone. Zane stepped out last. He moved slowly, almost like he was dreaming. His red glowing eyes pulsed softly in the dim light. He didn't speak much. Since the jump, he was different. Elia glanced at him and whispered, "He hasn't blinked once since we landed." They began walking. The terrain looked like a forest, but all the trees were wrong. Too straight, too smooth. Their branches twisted, then stopped like someone had changed their mind mid-drawing. When Rylan touched one, it felt like glass, but warm. Keep scanning, she ordered Dot as they explored deeper. A humming began. Faint at first, like static, but it grew stronger the farther they walked. Suddenly, Mason stopped. Commander, he pointed at a patch of ground. It was glowing, but not like light, more like a memory. Images flickered on the ground. A child running, a woman crying, a burning house. Elia gasped. That's my childhood. That house, it's mine. Everyone stared at the flickering scene. Zane tilted his head. It's not a recording. It's remembering you. Elia backed away quickly, shaken. How? That's impossible. Rylan pulled her aside. Everyone, back to the ship. Now. But as they turned, the path behind them was gone. The trees had moved. Or changed. Or maybe had never been there at all. No way, Mason whispered. We didn't take a turn. Elia looked pale. The forest is rebuilding itself behind us. Rylan raised her voice. Zane, you flew us in. Can you lead us back? But Zane wasn't listening. He was staring up at the swirling sky. I hear them, he said quietly. Rylan moved closer. Who? Zane's red eyes shimmered. They're not angry. They're curious. Suddenly, the ground shifted beneath them, like something breathing. A voice, not sound, but thought rippled through their minds. Why do you enter our silence? The crew froze. Elia screamed, dropping to her knees. Get away from my mind, she yelled. Rylan shouted, Back to the ship now. They ran, half blind, as the forest morphed and bent. Roots reached from the ground. Branches leaned in. Finally, they burst through a wall of light and saw the Solaris dawn, its hull glowing faintly. As if touched by the rift, they scrambled inside. The ship sealed behind them. Silence. Breathing hard, Rylan looked at her team. Elia was shaking. Mason looked like he might be sick, but Zane smiled. Didn't you hear it? He asked. They just wanted to talk. Elia stood up, her voice trembling. No, Zane. They took something from us. Rylan looked at him closely. His red eyes no longer just glowed. They shimmered. Like mirrors. Like doors. Cliffhanger: Mason checked the ship's internal cameras. His hand froze. He pointed to the screen. Commander, there's someone else on board. Rylan turned. On the lower deck, near the cargo hold, a figure was standing. It wasn't human. The Solaris Dawn floated silently above a shattered moon. Inside, the crew gathered around the main console. Alia had found something strange. She pointed to the screen, her voice quiet. It's a signal, she said. Not natural. It's repeating, almost like a heartbeat. Mason frowned. Could be a distress call. Or a trap. Commander Rylan leaned closer. Where is it coming from? Alia hesitated. Not from the surface. It's coming from inside the rift itself. The room went still. Even the hum of the ship seemed to fade. The rift, the same dark space they had jumped through, was now sending out a signal. A pulse. Calling them, Zane rubbed his temples again. His head still throbbed, and his glowing eyes had grown brighter. Raylan noticed and gently pulled him aside. Zane, are you okay? He blinked slowly. It's loud in here. The ship. The space. I can hear thoughts. Not ours. Rylan. Tensed. You mean someone or something is in your mind? Zane didn't answer. He just looked out the window at the stars. Mason brought the signal through the speakers. At first, it sounded like static. Then. Voices. Whispers. Faint but human. Rylan's blood ran cold. Play that again. The whispers repeated. Help us. Still here. Don't trust the light? Alia looked pale. That's English. Those are human voices. Mason. Check the logs. It's not a recording from us. It's coming from outside. And it's old, decades old. Could it be the crew from the Vigilant? Alia asked. The Vigilant was a Terran ship that had vanished into the rift years ago. Everyone believed it had been destroyed. But this signal? It suggested someone had survived. Or something had used their voices. Raylan made a decision. Prep the dropship. We're going closer. Alia shook her head. That's insane. What? If it's not them? What if it's a trap? Rylan looked at her. If there's a chance even one of our people is alive in there, we don't leave them behind. The crew suited up. Zane stayed behind, his condition unstable. But just before they boarded the dropship, he grabbed Rylan's arm. Don't look at the reflection, he said. If it talks to you, don't answer. She frowned. What do you mean? Zane's voice lowered. They wear your face. And your voice. The crew descended into the strange gravity pocket surrounding the rift. As they neared the center of the anomaly. The dropship sensors flickered. The sky turned dark. Then a ship appeared. Not human. Not alien. It looked like it had been built from pieces of dozens of wrecks, and its docking bay was open waiting. The dropship docked slowly. The crew stepped out. Silence. Then movement. A figure walked into the light. Raylan's heart stopped. It was her. Same face. Same voice. Same uniform. The clone smiled. We've been waiting. Rylan stared at herself. The figure standing inside. The rift ship looked exactly like her. Same hair, same uniform, even the same scar on her left cheek. The other crew members raised their weapons, but the copy didn't flinch. I'm not your enemy, the clone said. Her voice was calm, human. I'm what's left. Mason stepped forward slowly. You're not Rylan. So what are you? The copy looked sad. I was her, or maybe I still am. The rift breaks time, breaks memory. I came here 5 years ago, or 5 minutes ago. I don't know anymore. Alia whispered, This is impossible. The clone nodded. Yes, that's what we all said at first. Behind her, more figures stepped from the shadows. Human forms. Dozens of them. Some wore old Terran uniforms. Some wore alien armor. Others were broken, eyes glowing, faces distorted, like static. They weren't hostile. They just watched. Raylan raised her voice. "What happened to you?" The clone spoke softly. "We followed the signal. Just like you. The rift draws minds first. Then it pulls your image, your thoughts. Makes you forget who you are." Elia backed up. "This is a trap." But Mason was focused on the others. "Wait, some of these people, I recognize them. That's Commander Singh. She vanished 10 years ago." A man stepped forward. His voice cracked. "You left us." "No one knew where you were," Ryland said. "That's the point," the clone replied. "The rift hides us. And now it's learning from us." Suddenly, the lights in the strange ship pulsed. A low sound rumbled through the air, like breathing. The clone's smile faded. "It's waking up." "What is?" Rylan asked. "The rift," she said simply. "It's alive. Or maybe what's inside it is." Mason pulled Rylan aside. "We need to leave. Now." But before they could move, the walls shimmered and the corridor behind them vanished. They were sealed inside Dot back on the Solaris Dawn. Alarms blared. Zane stood at the window, breathing hard. The reflection of himself in the glass was still smiling. He turned to Elia's assistant, Drax. "We have to pull them out." "We can't," Drax said. "They're inside the anomaly now. Communications are dead." Zane's eyes glowed. Brighter. "No, I can feel them." He gripped the console. "They're not alone in there." On the alien ship, Rylan and her team were led deeper inside toward a chamber that pulsed like a heartbeat. At the center was a massive orb, spinning and glowing. The clone spoke again. "This is the mind core, the rift's heart. It stores everything it touches, memories, faces, thoughts, voices. And soon it will store you." Rylan aimed her weapon. Not today. But the orb pulsed once, and suddenly Elia dropped to her knees, screaming. Images flooded her mind, earth burning, her mother crying, 1,000 versions of herself dying over and over. Mason tried to help her, but his own hands began to blur. One moment he was solid, the next see-through. Like a ghost, the clone watched sadly. "It's already begun." Back on the Solaris Dawn, Zane's nose bled. He looked up Dot and said quietly, "It sees us." Cliffhanger. The mind core flickered, showing a new image. The Solaris Dawn, exploding Dot, and Zane, laughing.